Welcome back. The climate crisis is a complex and multifaceted issue concerning all of us today. Many people are overwhelmed by the size of the work that will be required to avoid man-made climate change. Taking time out to reflect on these issues will help us all to focus on what we can do in our own lives. Today, we're talking with Jean-Sebastien, the founder of All for Earth, which is a nonprofit that focuses on taking a stand against climate change through reflection. So welcome, Jean-Sebastien. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's so great to have you. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and eventually what led you towards sustainability?
I've always been very sensitive to nature and environment. I think when I was a kid, at 4 years old, when I arrived in Africa, that's the first time that I have, a full time memory as opposed to just flashes. And I think it was just the warmth of the weather, all the smells of the plants, and everything was so strong that it kind of opened up my brain. And I've always lived close to nature. Younger, I was a lot into surfing when I always lived by the ocean and things like this. So it's always been inside me. And this last April, for Earth Day, I decided to become an agent of change and really reflected on what it is I can do to help accelerate the movement towards sustainability.
You started All for Earth, and can you tell us a little bit about that movement and how that applies to your newfound desire to become an agent for change?
Yeah, absolutely. So when back in April, I was like, okay, what it is you're going to do? And I tend to start things on my own. I rarely go and join other organizations, which I could have done. But I decided to sit down every Friday at 12 for 20 minutes to kind of think about what it is I could do. And then just after a few weeks, I realized that, maybe offering people to sit down for 20 minutes every week would be a great opportunity for people to strike for Earth and to kind of like join other movements, but in a way that lowers the barriers to participation. So I had this image. Imagine it's Friday and rolling around the world at noon, everybody sits down everybody in their own time zone, right? For 20 minutes and as a strike for Earth, right? So I thought that would be a powerful signal sent to both the elected officials that, the majority is there and that they should be doing something, but also as a support to our scientists and, as a show of support that we give them the benefit of the doubt about the research and etc. So it's kind of a silent, the way I portray it today, silent, not doing, it's a strike where you're not doing anything as a symbol not to tax Earth, resources of Earth. But at the end of 20 minutes, then, we'll create the tool so you can reach out to your phone and kind of like send messages to elected officials or send a message to your favorite scientist as a support to what they do, etc. So in my mind, it's very complementary to what's happening out there. All the marches are happening, the kids, not leaving the kids alone, being there with them too. And I think it'd be a movement that works particularly well for organizations and people of maybe a generation that don't tend to participate too much, because even in organization, it doesn't tax the organization that much, neither the individual, but if done collectively, then it changes the game.
So in addition to sitting down to take a stand, being part of a sort of collective resistance movement, why do you feel that for the individual, personal reflection is a key part of this movement?
Yeah, I think that we are in a time where we have very little time to self-reflect. We have a lot of information out there, often very contradictory information, also information about what you should do. But that is somewhat overwhelming. And it's important to take the time to reconnect with yourself and really to understand what it is that you can do on a personal level in your everyday life, but also what it is that you can bring collectively to the movement or to accelerate the pace of change.
What other tools is All for Earth going to provide to people aside from just the Sit to Take a Stand movement?
So we are going to create different tools, and actually I'm inviting, trying to form a collective of creative, of technical people, of scientists, and etc. to develop different communication and tools around All for Earth. Some of the tools that I have in mind are applications that makes it very easy for people after those 20 minutes to kind of reach out to their elected officials, to the scientists that they want to support. So it's not that, it's to bring their wishes of elected officials doing something. Like now it's time. So creating all these technology tools that will kind of like bring this movement on social media and towards the people who somewhat responsible of making the changes. There will be content, development of content. I see development of short-term and long-term content around climate change, environment, but putting emphasis on what people are doing, the solutions, and etc., as opposed to be just on the gloom and doom, right? So, All for Earth as an organization would become online a place, the place to really lead the conversation around climate change, environmental issues, social justice related to climate change.
So do you think that this movement will be able to filter through to the minds of people who are sort of on the fence still about climate science?
That's an excellent question. I'm not trying to convince them there is something wrong. I don't mind, because I think there is a minority of it. I'm not trying to convince the person who is like a technological optimist and thinking that whatever we do is okay, in 10 years we'll have the technology, we'll solve the issues, because it's another minority. I'm interested in everybody who gives our scientists the benefit of the doubt that there is something wrong. And I'm not asking here that people are certain that there is something wrong, but that gives the benefit of the doubt that if we're not doing something now, it might fire back big time. And I think that's where the majority lies. I think this is the majority that the elected officials needs to see taking action and moving, to kind of empower them to do something, or to help create the gap where leaders will rise and take that wave of people. So I think there's a lot of people like me who's always like feeling guilty about the things, always will wish to do more, but just time, money, work, other things, and we never really do it, right? And I'm talking to these people who offering them a solution where it would take not that much of their time. It would really lower the barrier to participation, but done again collectively, at least with a critical amount of people, would create a very strong signal, would send a very strong signal.
What are some of your personal favorite tips, I guess more in general, about living a sustainable lifestyle?
I would say, don't think what Earth can do to you today for you, but think what you can do for Earth today.
Beautiful.
Kennedy's
yes.
saying, but something like this, because we always are easily taxing Earth and taking all the resources we can, and we don't think about it, and we're just like overtaxing it, and now it's time to reflect what it is that I can to give back to Earth. Right?
I love your emphasis on mindfulness, and certainly Sit to Take a Stand will help so many people in the community practicing that mindfulness. So thank you so much for sharing your insights. It was wonderful to have you here.
Thank you very much.